Hi, my name is Leah Kale, and today I'm going to be delving into a serious global issue of human trafficking around the world and the reasons for it, how it affects others, the United States involvement, most common regions, motives, etc. Firstly, I'm going to speak a little bit about myself. Again, as I already stated, my name is Leah Kale. I am from York, Pennsylvania, which is about 2.5 hours from here. I am 18 years old and I am a freshman here at Bloomsburg, and I'm majoring in political science. I hope to take this degree and become an attorney. A little fun fact, I'm also on the women's basketball team here at Bloomsburg. For this project, I chose the topic of human trafficking because I feel as though that no one should ever have to go through any type of exploitation specifically for the motive of money. It is an extreme violation of basic human rights. So to start, what exactly is human trafficking? Human trafficking is the illegal transportation of people of all ages and genders from one country or area to a different place for sexual exploitation, forced labor, domestic servitude, forced marriage, etc. It is caused mainly by force, fraud, coercion, and deception, but not limited to those things. There are many different types of trafficking, but the most common are sex trafficking, forced labor, child soldiers, and forced marriage. Specifically, sex trafficking is when individuals are forced to complete acts of sexual exploitation because of force, coercion, etc. Forced labor is when individuals are made to work in bad conditions with no pay, usually while under the threat of violence or other penalties. Child soldiers are individuals that are under the age of 18 who are used by an armed group in any capacity. This could be military, a militia group, etc. Forced marriage is when two individuals are forced against their will to wed. This is different from arranged marriages, where usually there is consent given and the families choose their partner for them. Moving on, human trafficking is something that goes on behind the scenes of every region in the world. In these said regions, trafficking is the most prevalent in Asia, in the Pacific at 29.3 million people affected, Africa at 7 million, Europe and Central Asia at 6.4 million people affected. But as you can see in the photo to the right here, in different areas, different types of trafficking are more common. Like for example, in North America, sexual exploitation is the most common, but in Southern Africa, forced labor is the most prevalent. The root causes and motives for trafficking differ between their respective regions. They take advantages of those situations of poverty, poor education, political instability, or societal discrimination. The victims usually suffer greatly from physical and psychological abuse, debt bondage, which is essentially holding someone or something over the victim's head to coerce them to cooperate. Moving on, severe exploitation and abuse can also happen. We will speak more in depth about the victims in the next slide. Financial gain is the greatest motive compared to the rest. The victims are forced in situations of commercial sex work and forced labor for the economic benefits resulting from their exploitation. Supply and demand comes next. There is an extreme demand for cheap labor in many industries, especially in third world countries. This includes, but is not limited to, retail, agriculture, construction, manufacturing, and domestic work. As well as the demand for sexual acts, the traffickers will fulfill this demand by the exploitation of their victims. Another motive is the demand of organs, which is not as common as many of the other motives, but organ selling is an extremely profitable motive. This causes exploitations of people's bodies similarly to sexual exploitation, but different because they are having their organs be cut out of them and sold. Moving on to the victims of trafficking. While any person or anyone can be trafficked, typically children and women are extremely vulnerable to traffic, children specifically because of their dependence and age. The reason for them being trafficked is not limited to one specific kind, they are usually used for every kind. Women and girls are extremely wanted for sexual exploitation, considering that in the branch of trafficking, it is men typically looking to prey on the girls. They are not typically looking for boys, but it is still not unheard of for young men to be sexually trafficked. Migrants and refugees are also a target because if they are an individual who are looking to flee from conflict in their country, they commonly can fall into trafficking while searching for a new country to reside in. But trafficking can also happen in runaways, and homeless youth, economically vulnerable individuals, and, of course, like I mentioned earlier, teenage girls, which falls under the women category. Moving on, here are two statistics. This chart here is the forced labor generated from trafficking. As you can see, in U.S. dollars, the Asian Pacific area generated $51.8 billion from trafficking. Developed economies in Europe, in the EU, profited $46.9 million. Central and Southeastern Europe generated $18 billion. Africa, 13.1, Latin America and the Caribbean at 12, and the Middle East at 8.5. Moving over to the left, you can see that over half of the victims identified in new criminal human trafficking cases in 2021 were minors. As you can see, all criminal traffic cases, 57% were minors, sex trafficking cases, 66% were minors, in buyer cases, 100% were minors, but in forced labor cases, 100% were adults. The United States government is actively involved in this human rights issue. They've done this by making legislations and policies, by funding NGOs, which are non-governmental organizations that are meant for anti-trafficking internationally, and they also have public awareness training. Thank you for watching my presentation. I hope that you learned about trafficking and understand the extreme issues of it and how the U.S. involvement has been helping this issue, and that hopefully it can soon be resolved. Thank you.